For a director known for such high-flying adventures like Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and E.T., The Color Purple was a clear departure for Steven Spielberg in the 1980s. It was his first quote-unquote serious movie, and the fact that it was a black story was an eye-opener at the time. A white director tackling such an ethnic subject matter had many questioning whether or not he was fit for the job. Quincy Jones, one of the film's producers, said something akin to the fact that if Spielberg can move audiences by creating an alien relationship on screen, then he can do anything. The main thrust of The Color Purple is through Celie's eyes. She is a shy, passive, and lonely woman who suffers at the hands of the oppressive men in her life, but through some very strong connections with other female characters, finds the inner strength to stand up for herself and create a successful life free from oppression. More than being just a black story, The Color Purple is a lesson in feminism, but even deeper than that, it's a story about the inextinguishable fire of the human spirit that can withstand even the worst levels of despair. But the feminism angle is more important, I feel, specifically as it relates to black women. On the totem pole of discriminated ethnic groups, I don't think it would be a stretch to say that black women are surely at the bottom. Besides all the negative connotations of having darker skin, being a female on top of that is yet another obstacle in the path of true liberation. Celie represents the absolute essence of what is the black woman's struggle. Black men have a bit of an advantage on the treadmill of cultural acceptance. They spearhead most of the black experience when it comes to matters such as finance, politics, art, and entertainment. Black athletes in particular are extremely popular, and of course overwhelmingly represented by men. Most of the known black politicians are men, and most entertainment and creative examples of black success can be pinned on the male shoulders. While there are plenty of successful black females, when it comes down to things like sexual desirability, black men have a bit of an advantage. Desire is what drives us as a species. Those who aren't desired are left to their own devices. And Celie's main handicap is her looks, which are decidedly less attractive than most of the other females around her. And especially if you were a black female in America in the early 1900s, you generally had little more than your looks to rely on for popularity. It is Celie's lack of sex appeal that causes Mr. to go after her sister and not her, and to eventually become more interested in Shug. Our modern standards of beauty are almost entirely based around Eurocentric rules. This is doubly true for females. The more ethnic you look as a female, the less desirable you are to the male gaze.
Which doll is the black doll? And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll?
Show me the ugly child. Why is she the ugly child?
Because she's like, a lot darker.
¿Cuál muñeco es bonito? ¿Cuál muñeco es feo?
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one,
Okay.
that doll.
This is a generalization, of course, but I think for the most part it's a fair one. Black feminism is a distinct, separate category from traditional feminism, because, among many other reasons, white women don't have this handicap to deal with, and as a result, they have a little less of a burden in life. Spielberg uses this scene in which Shug and Celie become closer to highlight Celie's lack of sex appeal. As soon as she dons the red dress, she becomes the subject of Shug's sexual gaze. This is the first time we see anything erotic involving Celie. Every other sexual encounter she has involves her being used as a sexual prop. Barely there, legs open, existing only to serve as a relief from Mr. In this scene, Spielberg uses the color red and some very slow, deliberate shots to highlight just how much more desirable Celie becomes when she dons a sexier outfit. The visual symbolism here should be plainly obvious to anyone paying attention, and this scene becomes the gateway for her eventual liberation. Some people criticized Spielberg for his portrayal of black males in The Color Purple. One only has to look to Danny Glover's towering, all too real portrayal of Mr. to understand their grievances. He is a large, intimidating, cruel, and unforgiving taskmaster, concerned only with himself, having no respect for women, their feelings, or their sexual needs. On the one hand, these criticisms are unfair, because there are other men in the movie who don't act like Mr., and there is an entire subplot of Mr. teaching Harpo the ropes and training his wife to be more submissive by way of force. This is an important plot point because it shows that abuse is learned and not inherent in black males. One could liken Mr.'s abusive character as a holdover from slavery. A man's pride is a very important thing to him, and legions of black males having this pride stripped away by slavery likely caused extreme animosity and rageful feelings in the ensuing black male population. If they couldn't take their rage out on whites, they would take it out on the women in their lives. Thus, black women continued to pay for the crimes of slavery in those days. None of this is directly inferred in the movie, but it is absolutely hovering over the proceedings. Harpo's pressure from Mr. to beat Sophia can be seen as one of the ugly legacies of slavery. Speaking of this subplot, Sophia's downfall from being a strong, fierce, unrelenting force of nature to a near comatose shell of her former self has always been the most striking aspect of the film for me. It highlights how a simple chain of events in the world of domestic violence can cause an entire person's reality to crumble and dissolve into nothingness. But like all Spielberg movies, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I always felt that Sophia's tragic circumstances were a major motivator for Celie in taking her power back. It wasn't until she could actually see an example of a fire being extinguished in another person that she was capable of understanding what had been done to her her entire life. And when Celie finally breaks free of her shackles, it is the spark that reignites the fire in Sophia's soul. I always marvel at this amazing scene and transformation. And Celie being reunited with her children after all the years of struggle can be seen as her femininity being returned to her. In a sense, her children become a kind of symbolic reward for her choosing to fight for what is rightly hers, taking her femininity back from the cruel grasp of Mr., someone who eventually comes around and plays a hand in Celie's tearful reunion. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe button, as I'll be posting more content in the future. Thanks for watching.